my channel. If you're new here, I'm Sue of Bendnstretch with Sue. In today's video, I'm going to be taking you through a live Yin Yoga class that I recently did with some of my students. Now, the past few weeks, I've taught to you about taking care of shoulders, shoulder therapy, using massage cupping, as well as using therapy balls. Today, we're going to take care of our shoulders with our Yin practice. This practice is about an hour long, and there's a few props here that I have that you can reach for, get them ready, so that when we start the practice, everything is at your fingertips. So an example is a yoga strap. If you don't have one of these handy, you could go and get a belt, or even a hand towel would work. I also have a yoga blanket. So just any blanket that you have that can add extra padding just to make things more comfortable, because we do hold for an extended period of time. I also have a couple of yoga blocks, and if you don't have any of those, some cushions, even some thick books could be used as well. And I have a couple of bolsters. This one is a little bit of a flatter style bolster, and then I have a more rounded bolster. And again, if you don't have those available to you, some pillows would be just fine, and some cushions. You could use those as well. Now, because we do hold for a long period of time, you may get a little bit chilly just from stopping your movement for so long. So you may also want to have a cozy pair of socks handy, or a pair of slippers, as well as a sweater that I've got here. So just in case that you do find yourself cooling off. So with that, do make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it, because I so much appreciate your time. Also, give me one of these if you happen to like it, and don't forget to hit the notification bell, so you know when I upload new content. You can check it out. Check me out in the next video. Thank you so much. Let's begin. So go get your props. Namaste. Bring the arms out at your sides. You can even bring the feet a little bit wider than hip width. It's a great way to get that spine in a neutral position. Sometimes you might even have to pick up your bottom a little bit and kind of replace it back down in order to feel that the pelvis is nice and balanced. And as you watch your breath coming in through the nostrils, feeling it moving all the way down into the belly and inflating the abdomen. And then as you exhale, just breathing out in the manner that is most comfortable, most conducive for you to do so. So you might find that breathing out through the nose flows really easily. If you're feeling a little stuffy, you might have to breathe out through the mouth. But eventually, ideally, you can make your way to breathing in and out through the nostrils. Slows down the breath. It really allows you to grab a hold of all of the oxygen, both on the way in and on the way out, creating a lot of heaviness in the body as you use the exhales to help you to relax. Getting used to being in stillness, as we will be through our practice this morning. You'll find your thoughts start to dissipate a little bit easier as you focus on your breathing. Bring attention into your physical body by deliberately relaxing it. And with that clearer space, feeling ready to ease into our practice. Little by little, bring some movement to your hands, to your feet. You can eventually move into your wrists as well as into the ankles, perhaps circling around the wrists and the ankles. And as you breathe in to really lengthen yourself out, enjoy a nice, long, deliberate stretch, just as if you were waking up for the first time this morning. I'm just going to let someone else in. And from here, you can hug the knees into your body. And you can give yourself a little bit of a back massage. A little bit of rocking here. From side to side as you massage out the back. There goes that doorbell. And then rolling through your side from the fetal position to press yourself up. And come on up to seated. Just taking your time to move there. And preparing yourself, we're going to move on to the hands and knees from here. So on your hands and knees, the next position, first position that we're coming into today is going to be a frog position. But as I mentioned earlier, if you're just coming in now, we're focusing on our shoulders, but we're going to incorporate hips as well. You can bring the knees wider apart, and you'll want to ensure that you have your knees lined up with your ankles here, as well as the hips are lining up with the knees, or your knees lining up with your hips. So bringing them as wide as is comfortable for you to do so. Staying supported on the hands first. You may want to have a block or a bolster handy for this one, as we're going to thread the needle as well. So first you're going to take your right arm and reach it up with a really nice stretch here, opening through the heart, and then taking that over to thread behind your left wrist, easing the head, the right side of your head, either all the way down to the floor or using some support. So whether that's a pillow or a bolster, you can simply place it right underneath the side of your head, under your shoulder, wherever it's most comfortable for you to remain for the next several minutes. I'm just going to set my timer here. As you settle into this position, you do want to keep those knees open. You might also find that placing a bolster underneath your rib cage may make this more accessible for you. So that's a good option to consider if you find that there's a little too much going on in the hips. Sometimes it's a real matter of experimenting a little bit more to find the place where you can comfortably settle in. Every breath allows you to be more connected, more in tune to the movement, which causes you more ease to melt into the pose. So as we approach the halfway point of being here, you can stay right as you are, or you may want to take the left arm and simply rest it over your lower back, creating a little bit more prying open through that left shoulder as you continue that downward pressure on your right shoulder, your right upper arm. Remaining connected to breath, feeling that softness in the hips as well as in the upper body. This practice is one that really allows us to slow everything down. So often going many miles an hour to get everything done, the long lists that we impose upon ourselves. So when you come to the mat in this manner, you're able to let all of that go. So what a reward that is to the mind, to the body, even the emotional being. So we're down to the final 60 seconds here. So if you're finding that there's starting to be a little bit more struggle, you could go ahead and move out and just come into child's pose as you wait to move onto the other side, or just know that with this shorter amount of time left, you can focus on your breath to really help you to navigate through the challenge of stillness, of holding. Using your inhalation, we slowly bring the left hand underneath the shoulder for some support to press ourselves back up as you bring the right hand under the shoulder as well. And then slowly ease the hips or the knees in to give the hips a little bit more release. From here, with the hands under the shoulders, we can move into some clockwise rotations here to gently massage in around the entire hip area, linking that with your breathing, and this really helps to bring some counterbalance into the body, especially as we bring the knees in closer together. Now we're going to repeat the same pose on the opposite side. Now if you're finding that it's becoming a little too intense for your hips, you could simply move into a traditional threading of the needle by keeping the knees underneath the hips rather than bringing them into the frog position. And then simply we're going to reach up. So if you're coming into frog, go ahead, bring the knees wider apart, line up your ankles with your knees so the toes are turned out. This can be a really good stretch for your ankles as well. If you're choosing the more traditional option, keep the knees under your hips as you reach up with your left arm and then thread it through to the right side, reaching and slowly, carefully releasing the left side of your head onto your mat. Again, if you prefer, go ahead and place that bolster underneath your shoulder, place the block underneath your head, and that can help to just make it not quite so intense. And it really is about being in the pose rather than doing the pose when we're in yin. Try to relax through your shoulders, and you'll find that one side typically is going to be tighter than the other. That's perfectly normal, especially if you've been practicing for some time. You get to learn more about your body and how it responds. So you become more accustomed to making the adjustments that you need to make. You also are able to explore more depth, observe more balance as you continue to practice. The two sides become a little bit closer to being balanced. If not perfectly in balance, that might be a bit much to expect because our lives are so often out of balance. So So this is a great place to come to try to get closer to it. Continuing to feel the effect of your breathing. So if your mind begins to wander at all, bring it back to just what's going on in your body. Your hips, shoulders, the neck, the balancing of your breath. So as we come up to the halfway point now, you might explore going a little bit deeper, perhaps once again extending your arm up and over to create that deeper opening to the heart, the shoulder. So the meridians that we're affecting today primarily are the heart, pericardium meridian, as well as the lung meridians. Both of these, of course, more focused in the upper body. So the upper, in the trunk of our bodies, as well as all the way down to the arms, right to the fingers. These meridians are energy lines within our body that can become somewhat blocked. Flow of energy doesn't move necessarily as it should, just because as a result of the stressors that we're exposed to environmentally, as well as those that we're exposed to mentally and emotionally. So we have about another 30 seconds here, which means somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 or 3 breaths, particularly if you really focus on elongating and creating a nice long exhale. The exhale is the relaxing portion of your breath. So if you allow yourself to smooth it out, lengthen it out, you'll feel more release, more surrender. And from here you can ease your way back to bringing your right hand underneath you for some support. Left hand, and easing those knees back to line up under the hips once again, hands under the shoulders, as we move in those same rotations in counterclockwise motion. And from here, we move into a seated position. Now, if you feel more comfortable sitting with the hips elevated, you may want to sit on the folded blanket, your bolster, or even a block, although that's a little bit harder. So if you've got something softer to sit on, also whatever you're using as a means of extending your bind, you'll want to have that handy as well. From here, as we sit nice and tall and maybe move the fleshiness away from the base of the pelvis, we'll take the right leg and cross it over top of your left one to move into a half cow face position. Now, if you prefer it, if you have a bit more flexibility, you could go ahead and make that a full shoelace position, as it's known in the Yin tradition. And from here, it really is a stacking of the knees. So whether that bottom leg is extended or whether you are keeping it simply folded, so both of them are stacked, whichever option you choose is fine. Let's bring the lung and heart meridians into this as we bring the arms up. We'll take the left hand and bring it between the shoulder blades. And to start off, you can simply slide the hand or your right hand on top of the elbow in order to guide your left hand further down the back, right between those shoulder blades. So creating a little squeeze between the inner thighs, just from the positioning of your body. So once you're positioned, you're not trying to force it to go there. You're simply staying, breathing, but keeping the head lifted. You can even adjust your gaze upward if you like, just to get in position, and then you can close the eyes and come back to focusing on your breathing. As you maintain a beautiful tall alignment, this creates a beautiful opening into the ribs. So we have all of the fascia that's affected here. The more forward bending we are, forward reaching we are in life, the tighter those connective tissues get in the front of the body, and the ones in the back body get overstretched. So the fascia is this tough, thick tissue that encapsulates our joints, encapsulates our organs as well as our muscles. So that tissue can get really, really tight. And then we also have in around the joints, we have ligaments, we have tendons, the ligaments that attach bone to bone and tendons that attach muscle to bone. You can remain here with a hand on the elbow, or if you prefer to attempt your bind, you can reach up with your opposite hand, right hand reaching up the back and looking to interlace or to actually lock hands with your left one. If that's not possible, then just taking your strap or whatever prop you have, towel, strap, belt, in your left hand, and see if you can reach for it with your right hand. You can even apply a little bit of pulling with the bottom hand, and then just let yourself be, let yourself surrender there. The back of your head can rest into your forearm, which applies that slightest bit of pressure that really you're not forcing it, but you're allowing it to happen with the ease of gravity in your breath. So every time you breathe out, you get a little bit more depth. Breathing, softening, relaxing your jaw, relaxing those facial features. And from here, we release it nice and slowly to open up the arms nice and wide, and bringing the left arm forward, we wrap the right one around for equal arms. Try to bring those palms together if you can. Staying here, maybe the thumbs rest over the forehead, or actually tipping forward, bringing those arms up over top of the legs, creating a little bit of compression while we do this in the hips as well, just by tipping forward this way, allowing the back of the shoulder to open here, creating real stimulation to those energy lines within the upper trunk, the heart and the lung meridians that work together, and as organs they work together to draw in energy, oxygen into the body, and then to deliver it to every single cell in our body. They work together to detoxify the body, to rid it of toxins through breath, through those exhales. As well as the circulation that occurs through our lymphatic system with the compression that we apply here. We've got quite a bit of concentration in the groin area of lymphatic nodes, lymph nodes. We have them in the underarms and chest. So by compressing this way, we're really aiding that detoxification. So taking one more final breath here. And slowly beginning to unwind the arms, and as you separate them, you can bring the hands behind you, gently leaning back, separating the feet, maintaining a bend in the knees as you gently wiper blade them from one side to the other, creating a beautiful release here. It should feel really soothing as we prepare to do the other side, sitting nice and tall. Once again, making sure that the sit bones are well anchored as we elongate the spine, and picking up the left knee to bring it over to the right side. So we want to again draw the inner thighs toward each other to simply find that placement for the legs, remaining here or taking it to a full expression of shoelace. So as we plant both sit bones either onto your mat, blanket, or bolster, perfect option. We are going to inhale to reach those arms up once again. I'm just going to reset my timer here. Bringing your right hand this time between the shoulder blades. Left hand guides it down as we lift the gaze upward. Allow the scapula, those big flat bones of the shoulder blades, to slide down the back. So being aware of what's going on in around your neck. You don't want to have that sense of shoulders kind of hiking up close to the ears, but instead you want to feel softness and always surrender. Yin is about being in the pose rather than doing. So again, you can remain here with the hand on the elbow, continuing to guide it down, or you may wish to attempt to bind as you reach upward with your left hand. So you're going to either use the prop that you have nearby, make this a little bit easier if you want to attempt that, or just keep your hand on the elbow. I forgot to mention, for those of you who have difficulty even having the hand on the elbow, you always place it on the forearm. Just give it a nice, easy press back. And once you've got it in that position, it's really about holding it there and not continuing to be active in the position. It's more passive. Now, passive does not necessarily mean that discomfort doesn't set in. Still have that discomfort creeping in. And that comes from the time in which we are in this position for. Notice as you open the trunk this way, how much more breath you're able to get into the body. When we're reaching forward, when we're hunched forward, we're not able to get the fullness of breath within the lungs. So we're not getting the full energy in our bodies. And doing this allows you to get more of that oxygen into the lungs, into the bloodstream. On your next exhale, you can slowly release that. Taking a big breath in once again to open up, bringing the right arm in front this time with the left one winding underneath. Again, trying to get those palms together if you can. If you can't, just bring the backs of the hands together, and even hands on opposite shoulders can be a good option if you're tighter in this movement, this pose, this hold. Again, the thumbs can rest over that third eye chakra, that intuitive center, or you can simply rest the forehead over the thumbs as you allow yourself to tip forward and create some compression for the hips, deepening that stretch as well. Can we apply that pressure into those lymphatic stations, lymph nodes that are so instrumental in detoxifying our bodies? And even here, as we pull forward and create separation in the upper back, we allow the breath to move down into those bottom and back corners of our lungs. So taking another inhale to surrender a little bit more. Slow exhale. And then the next inhale carefully unwinds you, bringing you back to that tall seated position. From there, carefully unwinding the legs, pressing the heart forward and upward as we move into that microblading motion once again. And easing our way back to center. We're going to move into Sphinx Pose. And if you are not really familiar with it, you could have a block near to make it a little easier. You could also have your bolster or rolled up blanket to facilitate you being in the that back bend. So I'm just going to first demonstrate it without, as we come with the elbows placed underneath the shoulders and the heart open here, the shoulder blade scapula sliding down toward the kidneys, and the hands can be spread wide open. And you can take the legs a little bit wider apart, particularly if you feel a lot of compression in the lower back. Now you can keep your elbows here, or if you want to decrease the angle, you could also walk the hands a little further forward, or certainly using the bolster right underneath the rib cage can be a nice support to help you to remain there more comfortably. So that is an option, as well as if you find it difficult to keep the head elevated, you could simply bring your forehead onto the blocks, or the block. So you've got lots of options here that can serve you well. So it's always, as I mentioned earlier, a way of experimenting a little bit to find just what works the very best for you and your body. We're not all the same. We've got the same basic structure, but certainly there's some variations in just how the joints are formed, and as well as the impact of what we do day to day will cause us to be very tight and inflexible in certain areas, whereas we might be more flexible than others in other areas. So The human body is just an amazing, amazing creation. It's just fascinating the way that all of our systems work to support us and the way that they adapt to whatever we're faced with. So it's so important for you to do this sort of practice where you really focus on self-care, bringing balance back to your body, to your mind. Reminding yourself as you take that mental scan to ensure that you're not starting to tense up unnecessarily, maybe in your shoulders, your upper back. Always reminding yourself to use the exhale to soften. Those facial features can be places where you tense up without even realizing it. So check in and see how your forehead is responding, the muscles around your eyes, the muscles around your mouth and your jaw. See if you can soften them up a little bit more. Again, particularly as you use the out breath. Now, for those of you who are more experienced, you could remain here, or you could take it to a seal pose, which I'll demonstrate shortly. For those of you who have had enough at any point in time, you could simply come all the way down to your mat and bring the ear to the mat, bring the arms at your sides to come into a release. But for those of you who want to experiment with a little bit more depth, you can take the hands wider as you straighten the arms, keeping the index fingers pointed straight ahead, maintaining a nice open hand as you create separation between the fingers, continuing to feel yourself softening in that upper back particularly. Great opening to your chest here, all the way from the hips right up to the throat. It's great for stimulating the thyroid, just more or less like our inner furnace in our system. Those glands and hormones within the body all work in conjunction with each other to further bring the balance. So there's so much going on. From here, you can take another breath in and use that exhale to slowly unroll yourself all the way down to your mat. As you come down, you can stack the hands at the top of the mat, and from here, resting your left ear on your mat, sliding out the right knee to the side as you create a kind of a half frog position to open up the hip a little bit, but at the same time give a really nice balance into your spine. As you bring your right leg back in, we'll repeat that same stretch to the other side. We're not here very long. It's just a matter of giving our bodies a counter pose, counterbalance. And as you slowly make your way back up again, we bring the hands underneath the shoulders. And from here, we're going to move into a forward fold. We're coming into a half frog forward fold. So you're going to bring your, in this case, I've got my left leg along the inside of my right one. You could use your bolster here if you like underneath the ribs, or you could even have it placed lengthways to fold over. But as we add on, We're going to take the hands behind the back and bring them either to interlace the fingers as you come forward, or you could reach for opposite wrists or even opposite elbows to further deepen the stretch in the shoulders. Or if you have more flexibility or longer arms, you can bring the palms together in a reverse prayer as you move into that forward fold. So you have 3-4 options there that you can explore with your arms. So you choose the one that will serve you best. You could also use a block to rest your forehead on if you're coming further forward in that expression of the pose. So we're about halfway through our hold on this side. So we're holding a little shorter amount of time on this one since we're repeating the exact same arm position, although you may find that if you've started a little bit easier on this side, once we move on to the other side, you can go a little bit deeper perhaps with your arm positioning. Very slowly releasing the arms at your sides as you sit nice and tall, and you can gently roll the shoulders up to the ears and then roll them back down and away a few times as you massage this out. And preparing yourself to move on to the opposite side. But before we do, we'll bring the feet flat on the mat once again with the hands behind us, keeping the knees bent. This time we lift up into a little bit of a reverse table, just to stretch those front lines of the body again. Just bringing that balance back. And from here we set up to bring the opposite foot. So in this case I have my right foot that is coming alongside my left leg. Again, making sure the fleshy part is away from the sit bones as I sit nice and tall. So from here you can open through the heart, and once again find where you would like to hold the stretch. So maybe interlacing fingers, wrists, elbows, or again, option of your reverse prayer by bringing those palms together, sliding those fingers up the back. Now if you're in reverse prayer, you might find this time around you're able to get a little bit deeper into it.
again, bringing that awareness to being right here, right now. So the sensations of a discomfort that you may be experiencing are a really great way to keep you present and really monitoring as well the differences between discomfort and pain. So we never want to be pushing to where we're feeling pain in a yoga practice, Yin Yoga particularly. We want to be cueing in to what our body is telling us. We want to certainly feel discomfort, that's where we feel change, but if you were to look at an intensity scale, as far as your edges, with 1 being not feeling anything at all and 10 being excruciating pain, you would want to be somewhere in the range of about a 4 or a 5. And not pushing beyond that. So from here, you can slowly let those arms melt away at your sides. Very slowly unrolling yourself. And again, you can take a few shoulder rolls as you move up to come back to seated. Bringing your legs nice and long. From here, you can shake them out a little bit. You might even kind of massage out the tissue here to feel a little bit more blood flow restored. We kind of get that feeling of a little bit of constriction when we're holding for that extended period of time. Preparing to come back up into that reverse table to stretch those front lines of the body. And from here, we prepare to come into a supported fish. Now you can certainly do this with a couple of blocks, using one between the shoulder blades, the other one maybe for your head, depending on the setting height and the flexibility in your neck, or you could use one of your bolsters. So I have a couple of them here. I'll use this more rounded one on the higher side of it. And as I align my spine, and again, you're going to also be mindful of just how much bend you bring by how close you bring this, the end of this, to your sacrum. So you may find that you want to have it a little further up to reduce the angle in the back bend, or if you want to make it a little deeper, you can have it closer. So the same applies if you're using a rolled up towel here, rolled up blanket. From here you can open the arms nice and wide to create that stretch across the heart. And you can bring the feet wider apart to find the comfortable place, because here we're really focusing on the upper body rather than the lower half. But because we've already done the half butterfly, you may feel yourself wanting to come into a full butterfly. Perhaps using your blocks here to create some support for your knees if you find that there's a little too much intensity going on. So that's why the props are so useful in this practice, because you can adapt your body to really work into any position just by using those props to help you to modify, make it a little bit more comfortable while you're there, so that you don't move beyond that number 4 or 5 that I just mentioned in the previous pose. As we remain here,
a little longer if you wish to make this even deeper. You could bring the arms back alongside the bolster or the ears to even create a longer stretch through that fascia in the anterior body, right into the joints of the shoulders. Our shoulders are such a complex joint because we really are, when we talk about the shoulder, we're talking about the arm movement as well as the scapula. And when you combine the two of those with the wide range of motion that's available through both of them, we have something like 48 different movement possibilities. So it makes it very, very complex, and really nurturing these joints is so important for not only our functionality in all that we do day to day, but also really important in our posture. Better posture allows us to breathe in a way that's so much more efficient, which is going to be a direct result on our energy levels. Also a result in our blood flow. The nutrients that come into our body, of course, result in energy, but the detoxification that takes place as well is impacted by our posture. Better posture is so important in our spinal health. And our spine is where our central nervous system is, that highway that connects to the brain is located. All those messages take place moving up and down through that spine. Our mobility is directly affected by our spine health as well. When we have better posture, we're more confident. It even gives us more youth. And the benefits just continue on and on. Just so fascinating. So from here you can take time to slowly bring the arms back closer to the hips, turning the palms down and gently rolling onto your favorite side as you ease off of whatever your supporting prop is. You can press yourself up in order to move that prop out of your way to come back to a supine position as you bring knees into the body, hugging them in as you gently massage out your back. A little bit of rocking from side to side. From here you can bring the feet flat on the mat, keeping a bend in the knees as you once again open those arms. You'll notice it's a lot easier now without having the heart elevated. Allow the knees to just sway and fall to your right. You might even take your right hand to the left knee and guide it up a little closer to the chest. Turning the head, if it feels comfortable doing so, toward your left hand, while continuing to keep the face softened. And then let it go as you unwind and come on back through the middle to release to the opposite side. So same thing. Nice spinal twist is a wonderful way to follow up a back bend, such as what we just did. It's also a great way to restore the balance, not only to your spine, but to your nervous system. A lot of emotions can be stirred up
in that long duration of holding. The connective tissue is said to have memory of its own, so it can stir up emotions. As you unwind and bring yourself back to corpse pose, we'll give ourselves a few moments to allow the integration of our work today. So find a comfortable position. If you prefer it, you could use your bolster or even the blocks behind your knees to make it more comfortable. You could even reach for your blanket if you have it to cover up in order to just make it warmer. We start to cool off very quickly once we take away all intensity and we just become very passive. So closing the eyes, taking a mental scan once again throughout the body, feeling the effect of what's going on as you release with more heaviness through the back body, particularly at those points of contact. You're going to allow your breathing now to soften up, to become much more effortless. Allow your thoughts to continue to dissipate as you just let yourself enjoy being still, being relaxed, and feeling good within your body. And you can remain here as long as you like. I'm going to be bringing the session to a close. So it doesn't matter if you want to continue to lay there. You could go ahead and do that. But I do hope that you enjoyed your time with me today. I certainly enjoyed the privilege of leading you through practice. So namaste. And thank you.